Coming up, worker cooperative legislation in Maryland, DC's budget freeze, unions call for solidarity with immigrants, and how you can join the socialist fight. But first, this administration's illegal detainments and deportations. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MDC Dispatch. I'm your host, Tony, and I will be bringing you the news and events from Metro DC DSA. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and be on the lookout for a new Dispatch episode every first and third Sunday of each month. The Trump administration has upended the rule of law on a seemingly endless list of issues, throwing whatever checks and balances our federal government had into chaos. Since January, the Orange Emperor has illegally frozen grant money across agencies, illegally and confusingly laid off tens of thousands of federal workers, claimed to have rolled back bedrock legal protections for the environment, public health, education, and more, and now a bizarre tariff war. But the fascist overreach we're going to focus on today is the growing number of illegal detainments and deportations. One of the Trump-Vance ticket's most reliable rallying cries was xenophobia, essentially referring to people with varying degrees of citizenship status as illegals or illegal aliens, and inflating and lying about the percentage and types of crimes committed by immigrants. Just recall the grotesque eating pets story. The Trump regime is making good on its promise to vilify immigrants at all costs, but socialists and our communities are fighting back. One story we've shared that you've surely heard by now is that of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Abrego Garcia has been living in Maryland for 15 years. He has a wife who is an American citizen and 3 children. He's a member of a union, the International Association of Sheet, Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers. He has no criminal record, and there is no proof that he is in any way associated with the gang MS-13. About a month ago, the Trump administration disappeared him to El Salvador's notorious Maximum Security Terrorist Confinement Center, CCOT. This is an illegal deportation. The administration has found a way to make the inhuman act of deportation even more bleak. In response, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that Abrego Garcia was wrongfully deported and ordered his return, which is striking for a court largely picked by Trump. Also striking was the resolve of Liberal Senator Chris Van Hollen, who traveled to El Salvador to visit Abrego Garcia and demand his homecoming. Neither Trump nor his dutiful puppet Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele are entertaining the idea of returning Abrego Garcia to his family. But the backlash doesn't end there. The people are rising up to demand justice for Abrego Garcia and an end to mass detainment and deportations. Protests in Maryland have made national news as workers, immigrant rights advocates, and more gather around Abrego Garcia's case. They are tying Trump's draconian treatment of immigrants with his suppression of free speech on Palestine. Trump and Vance are devoted allies of the Zionist entity. Trump has said countless disgusting things about Palestinians, has pledged to materially support the illegal Israeli occupation of Palestine, and has speculated on the beachfront rental value of Gaza, once it's been ethnically cleansed, of course. So it's crystal clear why he has hyper-focused his official policy of disappearing and harassing immigrants who have spoken out for Palestine, or at least have connections to Palestine, on campuses. Mesa Ozturk of Tufts University, Mahmoud Khalil of Columbia University, Badar Khan Suri of Georgetown University, and now Moshe Madawi, also of Columbia. These are just some of the people who have been abducted, usually by masked, aggressive ICE agents at the behest of the Trump administration. These people have committed no crimes. They were all living in the U.S. legally. But the law, the fine print, the truth, none of it matters to a fascist. My friends, now is the time to get organized. We will never beat this on our own as individuals. And we know for damn sure that the Democrats won't handle it. So I highly encourage you to get involved in DSA's migrant justice and internationalism work to tackle these injustices. I also want to point to an exciting time of resistance, May Day, the International Workers' Day. Gather with your favorite socialists, union organizers, community members, civil servants, restaurant employees, and all workers to fight Trump's oligarchical takeover. With the might of our labor, we know we can stop a dictator, and it might be the only way we see justice for our disappeared neighbors. MDC DSA's labor working group has been picketing every week in solidarity with restaurant workers organizing to join Unite Here Local 25 and for our collective right to have a say in our workplaces. Learn more about the working group's May Day events at the link in the description. Earlier this month, the Maryland General Assembly passed a new law, SB 0144, that authorizes the formation of limited worker co op associations. The bill establishes new rules on the formation, governance, conversion, and dissolution of worker co ops. The bill is now moving to the governor's office for approval and would be set to go in effect in October of next year. The bill was a project of an association of workers' cooperatives operating in Maryland, with legislative support provided by State Senator Mary Washington of Baltimore and delegates Lily Chee and Lorig Charkoudian of Montgomery County. Mayor Bowser has announced a government-wide spending freeze to address a $1 billion budget deficit created by congressional action. The freeze affects hiring, pay raises, bonuses, and overtime, but capital projects like the $515 million Capital One Arena deal remain exempt. The Metropolitan Police Department, which spent $133 million on overtime last year, is also expected to seek an exemption. What's more, the DC Council has yet to propose an alternate path to navigating congressional intervention in DC. Some council members, like Janice Lewis George, however, have called for a change of course and action to be taken. Let's not forget that Mayor Bowser's collapse in the face of fascism is not going unnoticed. While she has ordered this budget freeze that will directly affect workers' livelihoods, private companies and capital interests are racing in to exploit the district and its people with very questionable development arrangements, like the Washington Commanders organizing a deal to squeeze DC for $850 million for their privately owned stadium. This summer, hundreds of DSA members from across the U.S. will be converging in Chicago for the DSA National Convention to consider and vote on national resolutions, national bylaw changes, the national platform, and the National Political Committee leadership. Resolution and bylaw amendment proposals are currently being submitted by Democratic Socialists across the U.S. Members can find convention proposals, discussion boards, and platform proposals on the DSA Discussion Board's Convention Hub. More information about the convention proposals can also be found on the DSA website. The chapter will need to elect an estimated 46 delegates to represent Metro DC at the convention. Progressives are facing a complex situation when addressing immigration. We have to find continuous ways to oppose far-right fascist xenophobia while also acknowledging how employers exploit migrant workers for their own profit and to undermine labor standards. Nick Wright from the Morning Star suggests that effective labor organizing requires a new approach, one that unites workers across backgrounds rather than treating migrants themselves as the problem. He points to experiences in Germany with Die Linke and other left parties as cautionary examples of what happens when this balance is not achieved. Ambiguous messaging and a failure to infuse communication around migration with anti imperialism and anti racism creates a fractured and weaker movement and party. Meanwhile, in the U.S., labor organizations have issued a joint statement demanding an end to what they describe as the Trump administration's assault on immigrant workers, freedom of speech, the right to organize and bargain, and federal government workers. Union leaders are particularly concerned about the treatment of immigrant workers, noting incidents of detention without due process. They've also highlighted cases like that of Mahmoud Khalil, a UAW member and Columbia University graduate who was detained for participating in pro-Palestine political protests. And as such, they are calling for action on the Trump administration to immediately release our fellow workers and stop the campaign of terror. All employers, state and local governments must refuse collaboration with these ongoing attacks and resist. University administrations should stand up to the Trump administration's threats and coercion. They should refuse any cooperation with federal immigration or law enforcement seeking to persecute foreign students, faculty, and student dissenters. Get elected officials to grow a spine and stand up for workers. And finally, all unions must organize, rally, and demonstrate to demand these horrendous attacks end. We need to disrupt business as usual because right now it is anything but usual. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. Join our chapter for any of the huge slate of events coming up in the next few weeks. RSVPs are linked in the description. On Saturday, April 26, Comrade Milo from National DSA is facilitating a training event, Electoral Organizing 101, on outlining our chapter's electoral strategy at Petworth Library. Then, Sunday, April 27th, an electoral organizing deep dive to get ready for campaigns this year and in 2026 at Shepherd Park Library. On Wednesday, April 30th, the Political Education Working Group proudly presents the Socialist Sing-Along and Jam Session at 7 Drum City at the Pocket. This is a free participatory event to perform and learn about the role music has played in the labor movement. All abilities, instruments, and persons welcome. Songbooks and a backline will be provided, but participants can also bring their own instruments and perform their own music. Every Sunday until May 25th, join the chapter's Canvases for Social Housing. We're collecting mass signatures for social housing to encourage the DC Council to create a Department of Social Housing, which will fund and administer mixed-income public housing using market rate units to subsidize deeply affordable units. More than just DSA is hosting events in the coming weeks, so are many other groups. Here are a few other upcoming events. Monday, April 21st, join Rising Organizers for an Intro to Organizing training in collaboration with Free DC. Wednesday, April 23rd, join After the Storm and MDC DSA's Bodily Autonomy Working Group for Radical Queer Futures, an anti-capitalist writing workshop. Sunday, April 26th, drop by the MLK Library for DC Justice Lab's Community Safety Fair, a science fair type event showcasing ideas for a safe and free DC. Saturday, April 26th and Sunday, April 27th, all are invited to Building Community Power, Growing Community Wealth, Democratize Nova's 2025 Summit on Radical Community Democracy, and Solidarity Economics at George Mason University. Find these activities and many more at the calendar of events on our website or in our full weekly update, also linked in the description. The Democratic Socialists of America is growing. If you're not a member of DSA and would like to connect with other like-minded activists, community organizers, and neighbors, visit dsausa.org and join today. Metro DC DSA is the third largest chapter in America with over 2,000 members. We are very active in the community and have groups focused on labor, tenant rights, LGBTQ rights, environmental activism, and more. DSA is the largest socialist organization in America, and we would love to have you as a member. These and other stories, along with links and sources, can be found in the Metro DC DSA Weekly Update newsletter, which you can find linked in the description. This production has been a collaboration of members of Metro DC DSA. Look for new videos on the first and third Sunday of every month. I'm your host, Tony. A better world is possible.